Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from the Prague Chess Festival Masters section. Praggnanandhaa versus Vidit Gujrathi, so two of the members of the FIDE Candidates Tournament 2024. And even though there are three members of the FIDE Candidates Tournament, these two fine gentlemen, Prague Vidit and also Gukesh is playing in this tournament. The tournament is being led by none other than Nodirbek Abdusatorov in sole lead with incredible 4 points. But yeah, it's it is what it is, and it's hard to say whether these two will unleash their best or they are saving their preparation for the candidates tournament. But also I have no idea if they even started preparing, because in the olden days, like Bronstein, for example, would take 3 months off or maybe even 6 months off to prepare for the candidates tournament. Nowadays, young players are playing, active chess, maybe up until 2 weeks before the candidates tournament, and probably even playing bullet until maybe 3 a.m. Who knows? But yeah, it's a fine game. Let's check it out and see what we can expect in the candidates tournament or not. So Prague with the white pieces opens with c4. None of them having a spectacular tournament. Prague with those 2 losses. Vidit is currently on the standings half a point in front of Prague. c4, we have pawn to e5. Knight to c3, knight to f6, we have knight to f3, and knight to c6. The 4 knights of the English. It is the most often played line of the English that we see, at least in the past few years. G3 and D5 now. C captures, knight captures, and bishop to G2. So all been played before. Bishop to C5, D3, and castles kingside. And there are a couple of moves that are known here, like castles is known, knight captures, and D5 is known, knight to E4 is known. But Prague goes for bishop to D2, and it is now as of move 8 that we have a completely new game. So Vidit has the option: does he capture on c3 and give Prague this long diagonal for the bishop, or does he go back to f6? And that's exactly what he does, asking Prague, are you maybe interested in some bishop to g5? Then I'm going to play h6. You can't go to h4 because of g5, then you're going to have to capture on f6. But Prague says, no thank you, let's just play chess. He plays a3 and introduces a very, very refreshing maneuver. We have pawn to h6, b4, as of course it is the strongest move in any position, bishop to d6, castles, and after a6, stopping b5, there's bishop back to c1. So this is what Prague got. He got a very much a playable position with white, where Vidit can't really equalize on the spot, and this can be played pretty much until Prague decides that he wants to trade down and draw the game. He's preparing bishop to b2, so bishop to f5, nice active square for the light square bishop, bishop to b2, and queen to d7. Preparing bishop to h3, knight to a4. Now we'll pile up on the c file with something like maybe rook c1, queen c2, and we'll put the knight on c5 at some point. So bishop to h3, rook to c1, and rook a to d8. We have queen to c2, rook f to e8, and now rook f to d1. Bishop captures on g2, king captures, and now queen to e6. And here we have pawn to e4. With queen to e6, Vidit prepared pawn to e4, and if Prague doesn't want to see that on the board, he has to play pawn to e4 himself, which kind of does leave him with the backwards d3 pawn, and he might have some problems executing d4, but it's a trade-off. We have rook to d7. Of course, if Vidit recognizes this, he will now double up rooks on the d file to control the d4 square with pretty much every piece that he owns. Queen to c4, offering a queen trade, and now queen to e7. You could also trade, but then you just improve Prague's position. He would very much enjoy getting rid of this backwards d3 pawn. So just queen back to e7, queen to b3, and now rook e to d8. Continuing the plan of doubling up on the d file. Rook to e1, Prague says, all right, I have to defend my e pawn if I ever want to execute d4. And the position is incredibly sharp. If d4 is allowed, Prague's position will be, just very, very strong. So he plays queen to e8. This is the absolute best move by Vidit, and just shows how deeply he looked into the future. Now, queen to e8, how does queen to e8 looks like a very weird move? How does this stop white from playing d4? Well, it's a very nice line. d4, e captures, and now e5. Of course, you want to play this. Knight captures on e5. Now knight to c5, and you cannot capture with the bishop because rook captures on e5, attacks the queen, and also will pick up the bishop. So you're going to have to play rook to e7. Now you see how queen to e8 was helpful. You freed up the e7 square for your rook. And after rook to e7, knight captures on b7, rook d to d7, knight captures on d6. You will play rook captures on d6, and after knight captures on d4. Everything nicely traded down. This is an equal position. Okay, it's a bishop against the knight, but equal position. So Pragg just plays pawn to h3. He says, all right, a very nice move, queen to e8. I'll give you that. Let's just continue playing some chess. Knight to h7, preparing knight to g5, and now knight back to c3. So avoiding the plan of knight to c5 altogether. Knight to c3 now wants to claim that d5 square, as if the bishop moves, the rooks will be very strong here against the d3 pawn. So knight g5, Vidit looking to trade down. Knight captures on g5, and now a very nice in-between move by Vidit, knight to d4. First attacking the queen before recollecting material. We have queen back to d1, h captures on g5, and knight to d5. And okay, here knight to e6, you want to have your c7 pawn nicely defended. Plus also you have to somehow figure out how to move the bishop, as the bishop is also defending the c7 pawn. So you will have the knight and rook guarding the pawn. The bishop doesn't have to do it. You can move the bishop and then put some pressure on that d3 pawn, probably kick away the knight with pawn to c6. So that's the plan. Pragg plays queen to g4, just taking what is offered, some free space that was left behind. And now, okay, c6 would be rushing it a little bit because knight b6 forces the rook to move, and then you can't really enjoy your two rooks against the backwards d3 pawn. So here, bishop to f8, now preparing c6 to win the pawn, and pawn to h4. Pragg says, all right, you have your d3 pawn, I will create some chances with maybe captures in g6. Okay, c6. It is the only counterplay that Vidit has. We have knight to b6 attacking the rook, rook captures on d3, h captures on g5, and now bishop to e7, and of course pawn to g6. Now you could maybe look at some other moves instead of bishop to e7 to sort of prevent pawn to g6, but what are they? Like if you play pawn to g6 and you stop this altogether, then the e5 pawn will be captured. You will be extremely weak on the dark squares, and if bishop to e7. Now, while you can play bishop captures on e5, the trick here is that if bishop captures on e5, just bishop captures on g5. And it looks maybe a bit suspicious, but after f4 there is f6, and yeah, the position is equal, so to say. So after bishop to e7, Pragg found g6, and objectively it is the best move, trying to undermine the knight on e6. We have bishop to g5, g captures on f7 with check, queen captures, and now rook c to d1, fighting against rook to d2 to go after the f2 pawn, and now bishop to d2. Vidit trying to be very tricky, and the engine even gives him a question mark and an exclamation point. So it's not just a question mark like this is bad, but also this could be very tricky. The point being that the engine says you should just play rook to f8. Rook to f8, put pressure on the f2 pawn, and once this is defended, you will trade everything, and now it's just a nice endgame where, equal position. But okay, Vidit tried to be tricky, bishop to d2, and look at this. Pragg does not play rook to f1. He says, all right, f2 pawn is not weak. He instead plays rook to e2, and he also gets this question mark plus exclamation point. As now it's Vidit's time to sort of punish this, and he plays bishop to c3, which is the way to go. We have rook captures on d3, as the rook is now hanging on d1, rook captures, and now knight to c4, preparing to capture here and then capture on e5. So queen to f6, defending the e5 pawn, and bishop captures on c3, rook captures, and knight to e3. Now Pragg wants to get the knight over to f5 to put pressure on g7, and Vidit says, all right, I will first capture on a3, and only now, after rook to d2, Pragg wants to also have the option of playing rook to d7, so now he will go with everything after that g7 pawn. Now Vidit stops it with knight to d4, so he stops the rook d7 and also knight to f5. He can just trade knights here. But interestingly, after knight to f5, he doesn't trade with knight captures on f5. Instead, he plays pawn to a5, which is now awarded not just a question mark and an exclamation point, but just a question mark. Now, why is that? Well, Prague will show you. Knight captures on d4, e captures and pawn to e5, attacking the queen. Then he will play rook captures on d4, and the b4 pawn will be defended. So queen captures on e5, and now rook captures on d4. And this is the critical moment in the game where there is only one good move for Vidit, and he misses it. Now, Vidit played his next move with some 2 minutes. He spent 2 minutes calculating his next move, and he played it with some 13 minutes on the clock. He played a captures on b4. But just to show you what you have to play, because the position is extremely complicated, you have to play a rook to b3, and after b captures on a5, you have to play rook to b5. This is how you go after the pawn. And now the point is that after queen to c8 with check, king to f7, you don't have to go to h7. Queen to d7 with check, king g8 is just a draw, because if you go for rook to d7, king to g6, the king is very safe here, so there's nothing to worry about. And now it's black who will start checking the white king. Objectively, it is a draw. So after rook captures on d4, he did not find this rook to b3 move, and it's the only move that holds the position. He played a captures on b4, and now you see the 2 red question marks. Now it's Prague to win the game. So feel free to pause the video and win the game for Prague while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on taking down a candidate. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to e4. This was Prague's idea, not winning back material. Now he claims this, and now with the possibility of rook to e8 check plus queen to c8 check, there's just no good way to defend the black king. Vidit tried queen to d5. He pinned the rook, but you know, it only works if the rook is pinned. So Prague just unpins king h2. It's the only move that wins, but not a difficult one to find. And now the real trick is, let's say you play something like b3. You want to say, okay, show me, is there a win here? Yes, there is. Queen to c8 with check, and after king to h7, king to f7, you just queen to e8. So that's the problem with the rook on e4. And if king to h7, now rook to h4 check, king to g6, queen to e8 with check, and now you either get checkmated or you go queen f7, and then it's just a nice rook g4 check, trying to deflect the king from defending the queen, rook f4 check, and that's game. On the other hand, if you try something like, let's say, queen to d8, which is objectively the best move recommended by the engine, still it is insufficient. Queen e6 check, king to h7, rook to h4 check, and now, well, just captures. There's nothing better. So that's I wanted to show you this top engine move line, because here after rook to a2, Vidit was the engine also was Vidit a double question mark, but all of the moves are losing here. So you know, the engine is sometimes funny like that. Like there are 10 losing moves and Vidit chooses one of them, and then the engine says, no, that's a question mark. You should play a stronger losing move. Yeah, don't just blindly listen to the engine. Queen to c8 with check by Prague, of course, the strongest move and the only one that wins, but not a difficult one to find. Rook to h4 check, king to g6, queen to e8 with check. Now, of course, this runs into rook to g4 check, like in the line that we've shown. So king to g5, but now queen to e6 with check. King to f5, rook to f4 check, king to g6, rook to g4 with check, and he was in this position on move 52 that Vidit Gujrathi resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. If you go to, well, to let's say f5, then rook to g5 is checkmate, and if you go back with king to h6, then queen captures on g7, followed by either rook to h4 check or queen to g6 will again be checkmate. So great stuff by Prague. I'm pretty sure none of them have, you know, neither of them have started preparing actively for the candidates yet, but who knows? I mean, who knows? Maybe they did, but you know, there are so many resources nowadays that I'm pretty sure you can prepare for the candidates, plus also prepare for a single game against one of the members of the candidates, you know, without spoiling or without showing your hand too much. So I don't know. As usual, I'm very much looking forward to your thoughts on this. So if you have some, do share in the comment section below. And yeah, like I said, Nodrbek still leading the tournament strong with 4 points. Followed by, I think only Gukesh is following him actively. Yeah, Nodrbek with 4. No, Parham is on 3.5. Rapport on 3. Gukesh, Navarre, and Praggnanandhaa now on 2.5. Vidit, Nguyen, and Vincent Cameron on 2, and Mateusz Bartel on 1 point. So we'll see. A very interesting tournament. We'll see if Nodrbek can push this all the way and you know, overtake the world champion Ding Liren on the live rating. list. But yeah, we'll see. Or maybe, you know, Prague will just start a rampage now after losing 2 games and like win all of the games. You know, anything can happen. Best just to see, and then I will notify you. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Prague. Very nicely played by Vidit as well. But you know, it was a clash of brilliancies. Prague was a bit more brilliant in this one. I would like to thank Matthew Witten, Kristen is the best wife, Chris Karskadan, Don Chain YouTube, and Kerekesh Tibor for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.